I'm going to be going through in which there's simple steps. Timing is something to recognize. For instance, with that oval dish, that thing's going to sit there for, depending upon the drying time of a studio, until it is firm, not completely leather hard. I would throw a bottom in it. I just would throw a disc. Some people would roll out a slab, fix it to it, and go on. And it ended up being relatively simple to accomplish. But the ease of me doing that was really important. And I brought some. I don't think they even fit. Mine don't fit these pins, but that's a really, really long story. So there are a couple things that I do. All of these pieces were made in parts, with the exception of that bowl. And I'm going to throw the bowl. And this too was just one of those things. You make bowls. You know, the wheel makes you make round things. And sometimes you have difficulty violating that. It's just one of those things that we get into. 1973, I acquired this. There is a story to my acquisition of this. I was sharing a studio with a Portland potter by the name of Pat Worsley and a then Portland potter by the name of Tom Coleman. And I didn't have a scale. And Tom was working at the Portland Museum Art School. I think I can do this, I can say this because it won't have a lot of impact anymore. This came from the inventory at the Portland Museum Art School in a box. It hadn't been opened. Apparently they had too many. And I've had it ever since. And it's my crutch. I don't know if the weight is accurate. It's the weight I use. And I do weigh every piece of clay I throw. And it's how I learned to throw repetitious throwing, was by throwing specific weight. It's how I learned to throw uniform scale, uniform size, between the memory that's in your hand and the weight of clay. You can throw very consistent pieces that way. So it's been my crutch, my one thing that I've always held is.
Greg Martel does that.
Every piece, and I don't go through and cut up clay ahead of time. I have a block of clay. I scoop it off. I weigh it. You get into a rhythm, and pretty soon you realize you're scooping off exactly the right amount of clay. Your hand feels it. There are a few things like that. Craig Martel.
I'm convinced he does it so that when he's pricing his pieces, he doesn't have to think about it. All the jars are the same price. I don't weigh, and all mine are different, so I have to come up with an individual price for each piece.
Yeah. But when I made the decision to make pots, it was, and I will say it was pretty naive. First thing I realized is that I really didn't have the skills necessary to do it. And I made a decision for myself that I would throw utilitarian pots for 6 months and teach myself how to throw. And I'm throwing utilitarian pots today, and the pots I threw in the early 70s and the pots I throw today are thrown with the same intent. But when I realized I needed to teach myself to throw, I threw a lot of pottery. It was not unusual for me to throw, at that time, wine goblets. And I would throw 50 cups in the morning, 50 stems in the afternoon. The next morning, put those pieces together, throw 50 cups, 50 stems, and you do that. And I don't advocate goblets as as the form to follow, but it was what I did, and you learn a lot of skills. My ability to throw teapot spouts, all of those things that I throw today came from that experience of very repetitious throwing of goblets. Now, I am left-handed, and I am extremely left-handed. I do not trust this hand very much. So I will oftentimes find myself doing what many of you will do right-handed over on this side of the wheel. I will do it on the wrong side, I suppose is a way of saying it. I, for some reason, can't see the form over here. And I can see the form here. And I can't tell you why it should be different, but for me it's different. So I'm just very comfortable working on this side of the wheel. I like to tell myself it's the right thing to do for my back. I'm stretching both ways. Maybe, I don't know, you find reasons, but I simply found myself not being able to see the curve over here so easy. So, there's this bowl, and it's amazing to bring all these tools that I don't have.
Let us know what you need.
Calipers. I know they have all of these interesting devices that break things up into segments, but I kind of half eyeball these things. So what I actually have and normally do for some, I'm breaking this up into sixths. I normally have that piece that's the top of lampshades, that is the circle and the spokes. You look right down through the hole, you go, okay, it's close to center, the spokes are riding on the rim, you just broke it up into thirds. It's easy to break up into sixths, and that's what I usually use. So I walk southeast Portland every morning for 3.5 miles, and I find things. One of the things you find is all beat up lampshades and that sort of thing that have been put out. And money, you find money. But, I taught architectural graphics when I was in school, and one of the things you have to do, or we had to do before things like AutoCAD, was we had to do everything drafting wise and oftentimes freehand. And we used to have to practice to make straight lines. I'm doing it left-handed, by the way. Good right-handed person's got his pencil over here and he's looking at a dot here and he just moves to the dot. He doesn't look at his pencil. Sets his pencil, looks to the dot. Sets his pencil, looks to the dot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines up on this form. And I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to set that corner of the rib down in the bottom, but I'm going to look at where the tool is ending up. I'm not watching the tool. If you watch the tool, you'll get a pretty shaky line. If you watch your pencil when you're drawing, you'll get a shaky line. You want to look to where you want the pencil to end up. And I made this point in a class last fall, and this one young man who was an English lit major trying very desperately to try to make good pots. I made that statement and I found him way across the room on the chalkboard trying to prove me wrong. But you just simply set the tool and draw to where, or look to where you want your tool to end up. So I'm just going to walk this around. My wheel, I would have great confidence in the speed with which it would rotate, but this thing has this, I haven't learned about this wheel yet, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not the wheel's fault.
You have to put it out a little diagonal there. So
If you, when I first started doing these, I made very vertical form, very vertical line, and what happens is that it's a grade. I mean, there's no problem with it, except that the bowl all of a sudden is sitting up straight and rigid. When you put just a slightly diagonal line in, it gives movement. And if you're a right-handed person, you're probably going to go this way, and you're going to have a direction in your line that I can't do. This is very much, for me, a left-handed